I am calling in from my Toronto adventure here in this sweet little apartment that I have been blessed with beside my parents' house while we're visiting. And yeah, it's been quite a trip coming to the city. It's been about 3 years since I've been here, and it'll probably be a few more years before we return. And as I'm preparing for this class and preparing for teaching about the psychic compass, I've been getting worked by the city. I'm used to living, where I live, for any of you that don't know me, is I live on a small island called Salt Spring Island in BC, unceded Coast Salish territory. And there are no stoplights. I'm on, 20 acres of beautiful rolling lands that borders national forest or that lead down to the sea. And so I'm surrounded by forest. I have a composting toilet system. We grow lots of food and live on a property with about 20 people and in a community, and lots of kids running around wild. And so coming to Toronto for the first time in 3 years, I have two new children that are 3 and 1, and I have a 12-year-old. And it's been this very interesting process of exploring, well, how do you orient in a psychic, using the psychic compass when you are connecting yourself with others. And what I mean by that is it can be really easy for me to so this concept of the psychic compass is how do we use our heightened senses to allow us to access information that helps us navigate in a way that isn't linear. It's a way that understands that there is circumstances and synchronicities that are ever so close to us if we start aligning ourselves with that potential of those miracle connections that come when we start orienting ourselves and listening to these psychic breadcrumbs. And so it's been interesting coming to Toronto because in Salt Spring, I leave and I know I usually run into like 20, 30 people that I know just going to the grocery store. And there's a different way of tracking energetically a place when there is more nature than there is human minds and human wills and human trajectories. Because what's happening is, like, when you are putting yourself in a city, energetically, the psychic compass is also, I think of it also as a primal tracking system. And so why I bring that up is it's important to realize that our psychic nature is actually a primal intuitive drive that's here to aid us in many, many ways. And I think there's been a lot of schism with claiming it as a very primal gift that we have to navigate the social structures and the physical safety of our bodies, our mental safety, by listening to this information. So coming to the city, obviously there's a lot of variables. My parents live right downtown. And one of the pieces that I'm learning about being in a city and being highly intuitive is there's a certain level of almost instinctual numbing that needs to happen, because our nervous systems my nervous system can't compute the amount of stimulus that's in every moment. And so what happens is when our nervous systems are having to dull our senses in order to function, not thrive necessarily, but function, it also means it can be harder to access our psychic compass, using the psychic compass as a navigational tool. So being here in the city has been really interesting because I instantly, like, after being here a couple of days, I'm really feeling there's this fogginess that's like going over myself. It's a lot harder for me to even get clear with my direction and what I'm trying to do. And so one of the experiments I did yesterday, for any of you that are watching that are in Toronto, I am going to be teaching a class soon on Sunday at Alternity about the psychic compass. And so the other day I was like, I need to practice some of the techniques I'm going to be teaching people, and I'm going to do it in the city, because there's so many different variables that I'm not used to anymore. I grew up here, so I used to have a whole bunch of systems of being able to function, and I don't anymore in the same way. So a thing that I love to do, and I'll just give you this, is so the other day I was like, okay, I'm going to leave the house. Anytime you leave the house, right, you're putting yourself in a bunch of new variables that your conscious mind can't wrap itself around, whether it's people, there's situations, opportunities that can come your way. And for some people, that's really nerve-wracking. For some people, and for me in the right situations, it's actually really exciting because I know that it's a great playground to practice my psychic capacity and to follow these psychic trails. So the other day I was like, okay, I'm going to go get groceries and I am setting the intention. And so with the psychic compass, you're setting a direction, right? You're figuring out, okay, what is my goal? And that goal can be a simple intention of a quality of an experience. So this case though, it was the intention of I'm going to run into somebody that I know. And that is my one mission to practice my psychic compass today. I'm in this one half an hour adventure downtown with thousands of people. Because I haven't been running into anyone I know surrounded by thousands of people. It's been really strange for me. So I put that prayer out and that directional prayer out, and I was like, okay, here we go. And so once you've seeded that intention, and like I said, in this situation, it was I just want to see somebody I know that will bring life to me, or will just to have practice this. It can be, I want to have an experience that brings joy to me when I leave this house. It can be, I want to come upon a very clear sign that is going to help me answer this question that is X, Y, and Z. So I put it out there and started going on a walk with my daughter in the stroller. At first I thought I was going to be by myself, because what happens when you're orienting yourself with other people, especially your children, you have to also start you have to almost start clumping them and their lived experience into this prayer, because you're actually navigating two different psyches that have different tracking mechanisms. That's a little more complicated for another conversation. So I started walking, and finally I had my little GPS. I was going to a place I didn't know, a new grocery store, and I just was totally lost. It didn't appear. I walked past it, and in my getting lost, I ran into one person that I knew, which was actually the person. It was more of a universal joke, being okay, Sarah, this still works even in a city. Because I was going to get groceries for a dinner date I was having with a couple of friends. And sure enough, in this downtown city, which doesn't even live in this part, there she was, one of my dinner date friends that I hadn't seen yet. And so I was like, oh, great, I didn't know what to buy. So she was on her way to work, so I got to say really quickly, what are you bringing to dinner? So I can accommodate something. So it was a really funny moment. And then she was like, okay, bye, we'll see you later. And so why I'm saying that is that sometimes it's as simple as these little encounters, or having these little moments of acknowledging that there is something that you are following that is beyond your logical mind, that is beyond this practical to-do list, that is beyond your 8-to-5 job that's really reliable and routine. When we start stepping into making space for really the magic, to not sound cliche, but the magic that is the seed, this magic that is palpable in every touch, right? When we start to slow down and remember that even in places where we feel like there is this external visual aid of this, of this concrete jungle where people are not looking at you and staring at phones, and there's a lot of lack of presence and sweetness that I feel, there's also this another lens of being able to drop beneath that and start putting that directional prayer out of, I'm seeking to find a connection that brings me life. I'm seeking to be an inspiration for someone on this walk. I'm seeking to, and so you can keep playing with that and teasing out those prayers in you and letting your potentially mundane walk to work be a magical adventure. So I'm going to leave you with that. And yeah, for any of you that are in Toronto, do reach out. I have some spots that I'm seeing a few clients in this sweet little spot that I have here for a little bit. And I have a class at Alternity. So I might see you at Pedestrian Sunday if I can brave it. All right, ciao.